church cares, and so does the St. Raymond Annadas Foundation for Freedom, Family, and Faith. Hi, I'm Erin DeSantis, Executive Director. In 2015, the Mercedarian Friars came together because they wanted to start a foundation to help families in crisis. And that's exactly what we've been doing over these years. Whether it be something to do with divorce, separation, trauma, job loss, loss of a loved one, or other adversities, we've helped so many families get through those tough times through the spiritual works of mercy. We'd love to hear from you. Please do get in touch with us for our services. They are prayer, priestly consultation, podcasts and videos, and programs and events. We look forward to hearing from you. Just go to nonotus.org and get in touch with me. I look forward to hearing from you. God bless.
Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Ministry present Journeys in Faith. Now, here's Ann DeSantis.
Good evening. Welcome to Journeys in Faith with Ann DeSantis here on Fiat Ministry Network. It's great to be here with you, of course, our third season, and I have a returning guest for all of you. I have Erin Cupp. Erin, thank you so much for coming back to Journeys in Faith.
And it's so good to be back chatting with you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah, it's great because I love the work that you're doing. Of course, you wrote the book, and I have it right in front of me, which is All Things New through OSV. And last time I had you on the show, we talked about that book, which is an amazing book. So I just recommend to all of you, if you haven't read the book, to go on Amazon or go to OSV and get All Things New. I'm going to start out with your bio because you got some new things happening in addition to what you've done in the past. Is that Erin Cupp is grateful to be recovering from compulsive overeating, binge eating behaviors, and developmental and betrayal trauma. She speaks about mental health and addiction recovery from a Catholic perspective. Look for her course. It's called Filled with Good, Theology of the Body for Food Addicts at erinmccollcup.com. Let me say that her last name, it's MCCOLE and then CUPP.com. You'll see that on the post that you might be watching this on Facebook or YouTube, and I'm sure we'll have it there too. So again, welcome back. Thank you so much. Let's just start out with what you're doing right now because our viewers are acquainted with you. And how did you transition from writing the last book that you did to really going into kind of something on your own here? We just talked about it right before we clicked record on this podcast, how you transitioned.
Yeah, sure. And that's a really good question. It's funny because the birth of my current project, Filled with Good, Theology of the Body for Food Addicts, I wrote about it in All Things New. The journey of writing that book, of writing All Things New, is what started me on the path to recovery from my binge eating and compulsive eating behaviors. And so it just kind of flowed from there. So to me, it doesn't feel like a transition. It's all about using the gifts that God gave us as embodied creatures to heal the sufferings that our minds, hearts, bodies, and souls have experienced here in this fallen world. It's all the same to me.
It's because there's that component with, someone wants to lose weight. They want to get in shape. There's going to be some kind of mind, body, and spiritual component, right? I know you write about that, and that's going to be, in that whole process of the person who wants to do the program, right? They're going to learn about that. Tell our audience, everybody has a different kind of gauge of how much they lost, but you did lose like mega weight. Tell us about that.
I lost 100 pounds. It took me about 2.5 years for it to happen. Now, but keep in mind, it took me decades to develop the habits that brought me to that point of obesity. And today I'm still living in food freedom. It's been over a year. And yeah, my life is so completely different, and it's not because of the weight. That's just sort of like the little party favor that came along with it, but just the peace and the joy and the creative energy that has come from learning how to live life instead of isolate with food has just been so transformative, and just such a gift that I get to live that in the here and now every day. And what happened through the course of my recovery, a big part of my path to recovery from addiction has been addiction to food in my case, has been about reestablishing my ability to relate to people, which is very John Paul II. We weren't made for stuff, we were made for relationship. And, through one of those relationships, somebody said, well, have you ever thought about creating a course? I'm like, well, no. But it's funny because as I've been going through this, it's been this opportunity. I was one of those kids when, like, my idea of fun was I would like make up worksheets for people and lessons for people and like give them out to like
You're doing that now.
Now I'm
in
doing
so many
that.
ways.
So exactly. It's like my inner child is like sitting back like, wow, we get to do what we love doing for fun. So it's just been this wonderful melding of hopes and desires, and that experience of God really does grant us the desires of our hearts, not just the fruition of them, like us getting what we want. Because sometimes what we want it doesn't match God's will, but that God puts desires on our hearts. He's the one who puts those desires there. He grants us the desire and then grants us whatever path it is to get closer to him through that desire, to find out what our needs really are and get those needs really met.
Yeah, I love how you brought up desire, because it can go either way, right? We can have desires that are good for our souls and obviously ones that aren't good. And I know that you unpack a lot of that in your, new project. And so I want to make that shout out for people right now, because we are in the new year when this podcast is being aired. It's the perfect time. This is the time of year that people are thinking about these things, and they're thinking about it in terms of just the physical, right? Most people do. Most people say, I hate what I see when I look in the mirror. But you explain in what you do and the work that you've done is that it's a lot more than that, isn't it?
Oh, it's a lot more than that. Yeah. I like what no, I don't like it, but like I can relate to what you said about that feeling of, a person looks in the mirror and says, oh, I hate what I see. And, that was a big part of it. Honestly, for whatever reason, it was never the biggest part of my process of addiction, but still, like, looking at the mirror and seeing my body, the body God created, through the eyes of criticism rather than gratitude. What that did was that set up this process within me of experiencing pain that I didn't need to experience. Like, looking at my body with that much criticism helped exactly no one. And two, God never made me to look at my body and think, ugh, I hate this. And so that's one of the things we address in Filled with Good, is that sort of deficit of self-compassion, that overabundance of criticism, judgment, and complaint. The more we go to create pain for ourselves that is not constructive, the more we are tempted to seek comfort, especially false comfort, if that is the habit that we have built into our lives. And so that whole process of looking at our bodies and saying, ugh, instead of using that as it could be, we think that's going to be inspiring to us to like, oh, well, if I look at myself and criticize myself enough for how I look, that's really going to motivate me to stop eating so compulsively. But okay, so then why doesn't it work? Why doesn't that help? It's because it sets off this pain cycle that we only know how to medicate with food, because we're not designed to experience the pain of rejection, the pain of self-criticism, and this lack of mercy towards ourselves or towards other humans, of course. And that's a big piece of Filled with Good, is rebuilding that connection with God's mercy for us, God's compassion for us, so that we can have compassion on ourselves, so that we stop triggering our own unhealthy desires for unhealthy unuseful comfort and instead reconnect with the comfort God has in mind for us.
Well, very well said. And I love how you brought up mercy, because that's such a big part of our relationship with God, isn't it? And you're really bringing some good human psychology into all of this too, because I think when you're trying to make a goal for yourself, whether it be something physical like losing weight or anything, we need to kind of go inside our hearts and our minds and say, what is stopping me from doing this? And I'm sure that you address this as well, that there is also going to be that spiritual component, that component that has to do with how we relate to God and our vision of ourselves. And I know that you're completely, bringing in that whole theology of the body, which is, of course, from John Paul II, and then, Christopher West as well, who did so much with it after the fact. And that whole idea of that composition of who we are, and that we really are body, mind, and spirit. And so I just think that that's beautiful. Give us a little bit of background before we really delve even more into this about who you are. I know you're a wife, a mom. You live in Pennsylvania, not far from where I'm located. So that's really a joy to have kind of a neighbor on the show. Tell us a little bit more about you and your journey.
Sure, absolutely. It's funny because now that we live in this world of worldwide teleconferencing, it's so funny how the term neighbor, like we're neighbors. Like I 5 years ago, I never would have. Oh, I don't live in that area anymore. But no, you're absolutely right. We're practically neighbors. My background is this is actually kind of really good opportunity for me to say what I'm not. I'm not a medical professional of any kind. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a therapist of any kind. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a theologian. I have a BFA, and that's kind of it. All I have, yeah, I'm grateful for it. All I have though is my experience and my story and the steps that I went through and the tools that I picked up over the decades, and I do mean decades, to come to this point where I could get away from that desperation to soothe all of my pain with food, to this point where it's not really even attractive anymore, that whole process. So I feel like I kind of got vague with that question.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, because when we had our last interview, I'm going to invite people to go, and if you have time, watch the first interview, because Erin really gets into her life, work, and mission, and a little bit about her family and her background. And of course, if you get the book, All Things New, she really delves into that a little bit more. And so you're on a journey. Now, you're also an author with Catholic Mom, I believe, right? Aren't you with Catholic Mom?
I do write with Catholic Mom. I also recently started working with Catholic in Recovery, which is a 12-step related program for Catholics who are recovering from addictions, compulsions, and unhealthy attachments.
That's perfect for you. And
it's a great
I know you told me right before we started that you have several people already signed up for this program. I know that you're excited about that, aren't you?
I do. Our first group cohort starts January 5th with a free webinar. So if you go to my website, just follow the yellow brick road, so to speak, virtual yellow brick road, to get on the list where I'm going to send you the first chapter, the introductory chapter of Filled with Good. I'm calling it a chapter. It's 3 video lessons. They will be sent to you for free. And then you'll get free access to a webinar workshop on January 5th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. When you'll get a chance to try before you buy. And then we will start 6 weekly meetings in that cohort January 12th. Yes. So it's going to be 6 Thursdays, 7:30 p.m. US Eastern time, where we're kind of going to do our homework for the course. You get to watch videos during the week, and then every Thursday night we're going to do like group work on the course. I have so many people signed up for this first cohort already. I haven't even sent out the free chapters yet, the free intro, that I'm starting to work with people to form the next cohort sometime later in January, probably the last week. There is already a plan to have one starting for Lent. So that's on the table. So anyway, long story short, if any listeners, viewers who want information on that, go to my website and just follow the very obvious signs to, get your free introductory chapter of Filled with Good.
I love how organized you are about all this because people need that. They really do. We all need that, no matter what the project is, but you really organized it so well. I
Thanks.
forgot to mention one thing before we take our break is that if someone does want to go back and watch episode 1 of Erin on Journeys in Faith, you would go to Patchwork Heart Ministry on the playlist for Journeys in Faith, or even my own and DeSantis YouTube. It's there too. And you'll be able to find that show. So I just want to mention that in case somebody is interested in seeing and learning more about you personally and about the writing that you've done. So now we do have to take a break. When we come back, we're really going to go into a little more detail about this project that Erin is doing. And I'm very excited for you to find out more. So we'll be right back here on Journeys in Faith in just a few minutes. Welcome back to Journeys in Faith on this Friday night. It's great to be here with Erin McCall Cupp. As I said, she's been on the show before. I think she was even on our Sowing Hope podcast and for the foundation that I represent too. So I'm very grateful to her that she's been on these programs and we're able to give you all really good content. And especially this content tonight is very, very good for all of you who are saying, it's January and I really need to do something about the way I look and feel. Now, this is a Catholic program, so it's not just about that, is it? And it is called Filled with Good Theology, the Body for Food Addicts. So you want to learn more, you go to erinmccollcup.com. So let's talk a little bit more, like somebody's watching this and thinking, what will we be doing when I first sign up? Can you tell them how will things be going along the first couple weeks as they sign up for the program?
Absolutely. So this is what's going to happen. When you sign up, you first get the free intro chapter to try before you buy, see if this is the kind of thing that will work for you and your schedule and your needs. And then you'll go to the webinar workshop if that's where you'll have a chance to really decide, is this something I want? Then the 6 weeks video courses will be sent to your email. Video lessons will be sent to your email box. There are 5 lessons for each of the chapters, so to speak. So you'll get 5 lessons a week. They are 5 to 10 minutes long for each lesson. So you can just kind of, listen to it as you're, driving in the car or washing your dishes or changing diapers or whatever. And then once a week, we meet for our workshop on a video conferencing software kind of thing. And that's when we're going to dig into sort of like the big assignments for the week. There will be some group work, some group discussion, because relationship building is a huge part of Filled with Good. If you want to say, well, can't I just watch the videos and not go to do the webinars? I really don't recommend it. Frankly, I think you'd be wasting your money. I would probably make a lot of more money if I would just put this course out there and not try to do workshops. But the relational piece, the learning how to find safety in what I call Trinitarian love, because if we look at God as Trinity, God is relationship. The theology of the body reminds us we are made in the image and likeness of God, to bring the image and likeness of God into, flesh and blood in real time, in our own type of real presence. And that is most fully realized in relationship. So I really don't recommend you try doing this on your own. You gotta be part of a relationship. So we're gonna facilitate that through these webinar workshops. You'll also have little journaling assignments that are gonna take like 15 minutes a day maximum. And these are the assignments that helped me. These are things that I still do on a daily basis. Helped me lay the groundwork so that I could be at peace with the mindset that helps me go through my day and all of the triggers that tempt me go back into my overeating and binge eating behaviors, to be able to tolerate those long enough for those cravings to pass. That is a skill set. I thought it was just something you could do or not. No, it's a skill set that one can develop. And it is my belief and hope and confidence that the tools that I provide in Filled with Good will help you develop that skill set, so you can go forward with whatever you probably already know is the right food plan for you.
I have to give you credit. You listed all the things, you say, I'm not a therapist, I'm not this, that, and went through the list. But can I say that the way that you're handling this is like, I'm thinking of something like cognitive behavioral therapy, really. And that's something that you're doing. And, you're doing it well, too, the way that you're describing it and the work that you put into it. So I just have to congratulate you that you're doing it the right way. Obviously, you've done your homework. So whoever is watching this, I want them to see that that's something that immediately my light bulb went off and said, oh, wow, she really did her homework on this one, because that how we learn, all of us, we learn by doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
We don't
and
just
that's why
learn
these
by
webinars
watching
are
a
so
video.
important.
It's not passive. When you're passive about anything, you are not going to learn and do and achieve. And so I just think that's a beautiful thing. And that even though, like you said, maybe you're not this licensed counselor or whatever, but it doesn't matter, because the concepts that you're using for this program, you're somebody who's already done this. And I don't think there's a better teacher.
Every day.
Every teacher. There's never a better teacher than somebody who knows their craft. And the craft of losing weight and doing it the right way, and integrating our Catholic beliefs into it, right? It's not just about getting on a scale and saying, I lost 50 pounds. I mean, that's nice. That's good. But when you can integrate your whole self, as you keep using that word integrate, because we are body, as I keep saying too, body, mind, spirit. And that is truly a Catholic thought too. It's not just, something new agey or whatever. It is who we are as human beings. And so I just have to congratulate you on that piece of it. Now, are there different packages? Like if somebody signs on, now obviously there is a cost, and I don't know if you wanted to get into that piece. Are there different levels of the program? Please explain how that works. That'd be great.
Sure. Well, it's not like big levels or anything. There, also one other thing that's included in the whole course automatically, even just the base price, is membership in a community where an online community where you can pop on for support anytime you need it, even outside of the webinars. You do have the option, if you anybody who has a U.S. mailing address is welcome to pay buy a little bit of a not a little bit, buy a spiral bound journal, which I actually have right next to me.
Oh, okay. There you go. Filled with Good.
Yes, included in the course automatically is a digital journal that you can fill out. It's going to be completable digitally. You could type out your answers on your computer if that's your jam. You could also print it out at home for personal use. However, if you really would just rather have something, solid in front of you, then we've got that as an option as well.
That's really nice.
Thank you. This was I'm really very happy with this. The other option, like I do recognize, especially with the webinar workshop piece, that not everybody has the freedom to just, go to the same webinar workshop every week, or I'm trying to schedule different times that will be available in different cohorts to, keep it cost effective for people. But for anybody who wants to start today, but just can't fit a weekly webinar at the same regular time in, I do have the option to do one-on-one webinars with me. So we'll do the exact same thing that we do in the group workshops, but it will just be one-on-one with me. So you're still receiving that support for developing the relational piece, but on your schedule. And it will be, it'll take less time because there's just two people talking. So that might be a better fit for some people. I will still, in part of those, as a big part of those one-on-one webinars, guiding and supporting you through building other relationships with just me, because I could lose my, peace with food the minute this interview is over. I have tools to avoid having that happen, but it could go away at any moment. I could say, I'm stressed, never mind, I'm going to just, medicate with whatever, medicate through the drive-through, whatever. I'm fully aware that could happen at any moment. And that's why it's so important to not just rely on just one person. Oh, she's done it. She's got it all. I do not have it all together.
Nobody does. Yeah.
Nobody does. And I could fall at any moment. And so developing that what I call a wide and deep network of Trinitarian relationships, that's absolutely key. Absolutely key to healing from these behaviors that we developed because of relational pain.
That's a good point for people to know and understand. It really is.
Right.
Such a good point.
We go to food because it's always there, unlike people.
Wow.
And replace the word food with almost any addiction.
Yeah, you could say alcohol, drugs, whatever someone is addicted to. Yeah. Now on the physical piece of it, I would like you to talk about how did doing your own program and your own healing, obviously you did lose 100 pounds. Okay. So what was the difference in how you felt physically? And I just mean waking up in the morning, getting through the day, the way now that when you look in the mirror and you see, like, how has that been different for you too?
The thing that I can note that comes to mind, that's the thing, like I've been living this way for a while now, that it's like, it's not like the memory has been wiped or anything, but I have to stop and think, like, what did it feel like? I would not have had the energy to put together something like this. I was incredibly tired all the time, because I wasn't putting myself in relationships that were feeding my energy. And so since I was spinning my energy out in draining ways, it supported that idea that, well, I've got to get something that's going to re-give me energy, and food's biological energy. Why not? But then the process that just, added to the drain, it did. There's a quote that I use in the program from Dr. Vincent Felitti. He is the one of the people behind what's called the ACEs study. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's called the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study.
Oh, wow.
And he stumbled into starting this study when he was working in the 1980s in an obesity clinic. And he was working with people who were like 300, 400, 500 pounds overweight. And what he noticed was as soon as they started losing some of the weight, they dropped out.
Oh.
And he, stumbled into discovering that with hardly any exception, everyone in this program had gone through horrible childhood trauma. And his quote is, "You can never get enough of something that almost works." We think that food is going to work, or again, replace the word food with whatever addiction du jour you've got in mind. It feels like it works, but since it doesn't really address the actual need, we can never have enough. And that's why I know I felt like I could never have enough of food. That's why I would just keep eating, even after past the point of physical pain. Forget the exhaustion later, just to the point of, physical abdominal pain. And I would just keep eating because, well, maybe the next bite will help. Maybe the next one.
Thank you there's a lot of introspection, I'm sure, that would take much longer than just the 5 minutes left on this program, right? But just the way that you're opening yourself up to our audience, I can only imagine what joining this program would be like for someone who this is a perfect fit for them. So I just want to make that invitation to all of you who are watching this to go to her website at Erin McColl Cupp, 2 P's on the end.com, filled with good theology of the body for food addicts. Now, you might be watching this and maybe you yourself don't have an issue with food or something like that, but you know someone. Maybe it's your husband, maybe it's your wife, maybe it's your son, maybe it's your mother, your neighbor, your friend, whoever it is. This would be a perfect gift too, wouldn't it? I mean, to give to somebody that you care about. And although we are already after that Christmas season when this podcast is being aired, maybe it could be for the beginning of the year as a gift to someone else. Correct, Erin?
I think it would make a great gift to oneself because until we choose it ourselves, until I chose this transformation myself, it wouldn't have taken. I would have done it to please the other person, and then when it didn't exactly hit that target, so like here I am saying, don't give this don't buy this.
It's okay. Well, maybe what they could do would be send the link and not buy it, right? Just say, hey, I saw this program, thought of you, and they don't purchase it, right? So it doesn't have to be a gift.
I think it could definitely be something to pray about, and pray for healing for our friends and loved ones, because when we receive that healing, however it comes, that's when we can have deeper, more Trinitarian relationships. That's when our relationships will, in real time, in real presence, make the Trinitarian love of God physical here in the here and now, and not just something we have to wait for heaven for. Which reminds me of something. I did run this program with a beta team, and one of the women who was on the beta team, it's Deanna Bartolini. She is the theologian over. Okay, you know
she
Deanna.
was a guest here. Yes.
Yeah, she's great. She's one of the she is the basically main force behind Live Not Lukewarm ministry. Her saying is that she got into it through Filled with Good. She found a community of people who care more about your soul than your size, and that was my goal with Filled with Good.
Oh my gosh, love it. That is so good. No, I love how honest you were, and I think for our audience that says a lot. She's not just saying, hey, buy this for your husband, because if your husband isn't going to, or your wife or whoever, your son, if they're not going to do it, if you buy it, maybe you've wasted your money in some ways, right? But what she's saying is it's got to come from that person. But I do think that helping Erin to spread the word to your contact list, that is also a good way that you can help her. Just let people know, maybe share social media posts, share this video. Please click that share button as you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, wherever you're listening or watching this. So, Erin, I want to just thank you so much for being a guest again. I'm sure we're going to have you back again because you're a wonderful guest, so easy to talk to, and you have a lot to share. So did you have any final words before we end?
Like the one thing I just, as you were just talking now, it reminded me, I do have, if you go to my Instagram, so it's Instagram and then Erin McColl Cupp, I've got free demonstrations of the tool that I use when I'm triggered, and that tool is at the heart of Filled with Good. So if you want to see how the program works in the heat of the moment, you can go and find those over on Instagram. You might have to scroll down a little bit, but I plan on having some of them out pretty frequently. So yeah, thank you, Anne. Thank you for this opportunity to share this with your viewers and listeners. I'm really, really grateful. It's always great chatting with you.
Oh, it is with you too. Like I said, I think we're going to have you back again because you'll be doing more great stuff. So to all of you, we will see you here next week on Journeys in Faith with Ann DeSantis on Fiat Ministry Network. God bless.
Journeys of Faith is a production of Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Ministry. For more information about Journeys of Faith, email info@fiatministrynetwork.tv. And be sure to friend, follow, and like us on social media. Just search Journeys in Faith with Ann DeSantis.